Welcome to the Embodiment podcast. This show is for you if you see the body as more than a brain taxi. It's for people interested in coming home to the body as a holistic aspect of who we are and how we live. Episodes contain practical tips, exercises you can take away, and interviews with embodiment specialists from around the world. I'm your host, Mark Walsh.
So on the show today, Bibiana Badenes. So Bibiana, I've known a little bit. She did the Embodied Facilitator course with me and the others. She came to that, though, massively well qualified already. All kinds of bodywork experience, dance experience, movement experience. I'm sure she can tell us about Rolfing and all sorts of other things, somatic coaching, her own body intelligence, which I really like as a phrase. So joining us from Spain today, is that right?
That's right. Thank you for inviting me.
You're so welcome. So what's the beginning of your story, Bibiana? How did you get interested in the body?
I think it's my whole life have brought me here where I am today. So I was a child and I just discovered that I learned to swim when I was like 9 years old. That's probably something quite late since I brought my children very early. And I realized that I when I was quite young, I started having neck pain, back pain. So my parents took me to the doctor and they found I have an scoliosis. So that brought me to swimming. And then I realized that I was not knowing anything about the body. Thinking that by the way you practice, but it's not really that you comprehend in your own body. So that brought me to study physical therapies. At that time, that was the closest thing that I could. I was picturing myself helping others and helping people with back pain. I wanted to mostly work with sports people. And soon I realized that I was still with a lot of back pain while I was working with others. So that created really a frustration on me, really a frustration. And then one day I went into a course. It was like a myofascial release course. And there was one guy that put his hand on me. And I say, wow, this is what I need, this kind of touch. That brought me to another way of understanding myself. And I said, where did you learn this? I was quite humble. I was very kind of almost like a child, like a curious. And he said, well, I went to India and there were people there doing Rolfing and in the ashram, and they taught me a little bit about this kind of touch and understanding. So next day, walking in my town, there was a bookstore, and I saw just in the window shop a book, Rolfing. And I said, wow. So I went inside, bought the book, and that was the beginning of a change in my life from the body, really, and going in a totally different direction. I was already working with the body, but it was totally different direction from me. Mm-hmm.
And we had Don Hanlon Johnson on the show in one of the early episodes who talked a little bit about Rolfing. But for those that missed that, would you just tell us in a sentence or two what Rolfing is? It's got such a crazy name. And
Well, actually, the name Rolfing comes from the founder or creator, Ida P. Rolf. And, the Americans make everything like short. The name that she created was a structural integration. Mm-hmm. And so it became popular, Rolfing, because of her. And now the name Rolfing comes under her name. Yeah. And
it has a reputation as a sort of quite a deep form of body work, can be quite intense, kind of actually working with the fascia to help the structure of the body, right?
Yeah, it's a manual therapy and movement education. And that's what I really liked about it. It was the both things, not only working manually, but working with the movement education that really got me fascinated about the work. And we're working on the fascia, the connective tissues, to regulate part of the nervous system and to create a more balanced body. So it's a process. It's not a technique. We do techniques, but it's a method of understanding the body and how we move in gravity.
Okay, great. And I know, like me, you're eclectic. You know, you like different things. So you didn't just stop with Rolfing, did you? I mean, that's a life's work there. But tell us some of the other things that you got interested in.
Well, actually, I was, even when I started Rolfing, I was really in my mood of fixing people. So it took me a while to get really into the understanding that fixing was not the goal of Rolfing. I mean, I understood, but my personality and being a physical therapy, I was doing it. I was wanted to fix people. And that was totally a mistake, of course. But so soon I went into other things, like I studied NLP a long time ago. I don't know, I was practicing Tai Chi, going to trying to find different osteopathy, visceral, some cranial work. But I was not able to let myself go into the movement practices. You know, that was something that it took me a while to go really into movement. I felt I was not capable to go into movement, to express myself through movement.
Yeah, I want to underline this. I think this is interesting that there's structural practices, aren't there? Like Rolfing, or maybe people are doing yoga poses, you know, to sort of change structure. But then the kind of expressive movement side of things, that's a whole different world.
Mm-hmm. It is. I think that to change the tissues and to at the end, what we're doing is economy of function. You move better to have more options. And that's what I think that we're doing with the embodiment and the somatic coaching. You have more options through the awareness and through the new movements that you discover. And from there, you have more possibilities to react to different inputs that we receive in life and any kind of challenge in life.
Yeah, so that's that sort of EFC model of awareness, range, and choice, right? That you find out what you're doing, you develop some different options, you're not just doing the same thing habitually, and then you actually have more freedom to respond more skillfully.
We giving people more options through kind of regulate the nervous system and through touch and movement education. I think that that's probably the gift that we can either receive or give to others. Yeah, to have more options, because our body is the history and story of our life. So we go through life with our body. It's not something that you just leave it somewhere and it's like, okay. So we think that bringing back to the possibilities that the body, it's really the place where everything starts. It's something very profound when you start understanding all the physiological things that are happening, and we're not sometimes able just to feel or have aware of what's going on. Yeah.
I know now you're doing coaching, one-to-one, movement groups. You have a festival out there in Spain. I think you're our first Spaniard on. I'm pretty sure you are, actually. So, hola. So
hola.
I know we have some Spanish listeners. I see on the statistics, Spain is on the list of sort of top 20 countries to listen. But you are our first Spaniard on. And tell us about some of the things you're kind of doing out there, like your festival and stuff with water that I see you doing, all sorts of interesting.
Yeah, the thing is that the water things, I should go first with that. In the year 98, I was already a rolfer, and I have a proposal from the Swedish Social Security to work with rheumatoid arthritis patients. They have residential programs that they bring the patients here, and we did the treatments. So one of the things that I was doing, was like I was really kind of copying the other programs that other people were doing. And one of the things that we were doing, they were water exercise. Because of their limitations, the water was really something very important. And one of the things that I realized that some of them, they even have difficulties to move in the water. So to prove them on movement, move them and flow them was really something for them, like a experience that they were really hoping to have.
Yeah,
being pain-free, moving free, being able to take out some of the stress. So we start working with that, and that's something that we've been doing over to more than 2,000 people. And yeah,
I'm imagining you now. You say here you're in Valencia area, right? Just to kind of place you for people, which is a beautiful city. I'm looking forward to seeing you there when I come to the kind of Paul Linden course there for his last European course. And, I'm imagining sort of beautiful pools, or is it in the sea on the coast, or like it sounds very Spanish, kind of being in the water, in the warm. And I know you do these kind of holidays, don't you, as well? Like Spain, famous as a holiday destination throughout Europe. And you kind of have these kind of like health holidays or somatic holidays. How does that work?
Well, I've been most of the time working. I didn't think about it. It was just something that they offer me, and we create these groups of first starting with rheumatoid arthritis patients. Then it was also stress management programs, also with Swedish people. And then it was some other people that they wanted to create their holidays. So we were supporting with them to have not only like a holiday, but to give the possibility to do personal development where they're here. And yeah, I live on the coast. I mean, I can turn not the screen now, but I'm watching this time right now from the beach.
I'm jealous. I'll see you in June, okay?
And I think that the environment, being in nature, makes a difference for people when you do a residential. I think that connects you with something that we are probably losing. Our connection to nature give us another possibility for being more with ourselves. Yeah,
we found this on the EFC that we have modules, in the inner city, and that's fine, and people still learn a lot, but everyone's favorite module has always been when we go into the Russian countryside or the Kent countryside, and we have these retreats, and people connect to themselves better when they connect.
Yeah,
there's just something in that, isn't there?
Yeah, that's very. I think that's going to grow more in the future. Something that, because since we're doing so many things online, and we are mammals, so we need to touch each other. So we need to have that interaction more and more. That sometimes because we are so much connected, we are disconnected from people. So I think that the residential program should. It's something that I think that I personally prefer to be with the teachers in a residential or in an environment where I can really get all the information and all the interaction with them, that just like going to a class and come back. Today there's so much information that we can do mentally, but to be really with the teachers is what really makes the difference, I think.
Yeah, because as you say, it's not just information. You can get all that online, but it's a relationship, isn't there?
Yeah.
One thing I've always liked about Spanish culture, I've dated Spanish people, been out there sometimes, is that it's very relational. There's that sort of relational warmth that's a big part of Spanish culture. So maybe you can speak to a little bit of that and that embodiment as our first Spaniard on the show. And we're always interested in culture on the show.
It's interesting to see that we touch each other a lot in our culture. Like when we see each other, we kiss and all of that. But then people, they're very ashamed to show the movements and to show the body as something like. So I don't know if this is we don't have really the embodiment in ourselves. But it's touch. It's one thing, but it doesn't mean that we are more embodied in that other cultures.
Because often there's this sort of stereotype that North America and North Europe is sort of colder, stiffer, more disembodied, and South America and South Europe, as Mediterranean, is kind of more free in the body, more dancing, more touch, more kind of emotional expression. Like certainly Greeks, Italians, you guys had fascism for a long time, right? So it's like a little bit suppressed maybe there, but it's, do you think that's just a stereotype then? Or do you think there's some truth in sort of this North versus South, America and Europe kind of thing?
I think that the climate really makes different culture. I mean, and it affects you. I mean, I don't feel the same when I'm really in a cold or in, and I think that just not to have to prevent, let's say, kind of makes people to be organized in a way or another. Like here, it's not raining so much. This could happen, not happen. So that's part of how we also build our society. And I think that's that kind of naturality of being with people. And because of the weather, you are more on the streets, and you go to the streets to communicate. So
I remember once I was in Mallorca and I went to a contact dance class, but I was super early, and it was in like this normal residential housing estate, so not the tourist Mallorca, like the real Mallorca. And I was there, and everyone was outside at the end of the day, and people were watching football and outside bars, kids were playing, old ladies were gossiping with each other, just like a whole of like 3 generations of the community were all together. And the kids would run up to their dad who was in the bar, and they'd run off, and then mum would shout, and it was this sense of sort of community and togetherness, which is just so much easier when the weather's nice.
I know.
We're all outside, right?
Yeah. I never thought that I was going to be paid to be in my town, being on the beach and doing a morning wake up or something like that. So I'm now 51, and I'm really to start to appreciate really more where I live as a gift to be here. Yeah.
And because a lot of embodiment work is coming out of North Europe, like the big centers of embodiment, United States, Germany, Sweden, England. And I've struggled to find, I have one Italian guest coming on. I've yet to find a Greek one. You're French even, if you think of French as sort of half Mediterranean. And, you're the first Spaniard. I've had no Portuguese. Some of this is language barriers, but I don't think just that. So what's the sort of embodiment scene like in Spain? Is it compared to other places? I know you've traveled quite a lot. So what's the scene like there?
Well, it's now people, they do a lot of yoga. Yoga is a big theme. And starting to do more like kind related to dancing and so on. And of course, all kind of gyms. And I think that there are different communities. Mm-hmm. It has not become still like a religion, the yoga, but it's coming. So I think that martial arts for a while was a big thing, but it was more exclusive, like people. And I think that anything that it's becoming kind of dancing, for a while, it was a lot in Spain, but mostly for women. Now there are more kind of classes like contact or 5 rhythms or biodanza and all of that people are going for. Yeah. Yeah.
And back to this idea of the sort of relational community sense then, because a lot of embodiment comes from the US, which is kind of hyper-individualistic culture. Mm-hmm. And Spain, to me, is almost the opposite end of that spectrum. I even remember on EFC, it'd always be communal and bringing food, and this sense of togetherness is very important, and sometimes the tyranny of that. Like I had a Spanish girlfriend, she'd be like, I have to go out tonight. And because all her friends were like expecting it and it was obliged. And, it's like she had a lot of family obligations, which seems like family is a much bigger thing to most Spanish people, Mm-hmm. And so, maybe you could speak to some of the embodiment of that, like social relational side a bit more.
Yeah, that's it's changing. I have to say that I have seen a changing, and I was talking with my mother the other day, and she could really see these things that before it was just, people were living and working probably their whole life in the same town. So it was your relationships were more in the people, in the community. So everything was for the community and for your family and your friends and so on. And now I think that because people are moving more from working somewhere else, and so they're losing that part of that kind of background from your family identity, and they're going more into the family that you are creating more than like the whole. But still, it's a big thing, families, and I think that it creates a different rhythm for some people in terms of relationships and so on. And I don't know if it's good or bad. I try to see the positive things of it. Sometimes, it's we have all these also comments for Christmas and so on, because, you know, we get together many times during the year. So it's not a big deal to get again in Christmas or some other holidays, that it could be more for the Americans and so on, that they don't see each other so often. Yeah.
Yeah, it always strikes me as well. Another fact, like North Europe, you kind of alluded to this earlier, there's quite a lot of planning, you know, future planning, structure, what's going to happen. And that's in some ways quite disembodying because it's future orientated. Whereas sometimes, you know, with my more Spanish and other Mediterranean friends, there's a sense of like, hey, we'll go with the flow. And sometimes it's annoying, right? Because it's like, you know, I'll be honest, like shit doesn't happen. But other times there's a real just like in the moment, like, hey, we're enjoying life, like pleasure orientation. The Italians have this maybe even more, you know, but this sense of being in the moment, enjoying each other's company, time passes, but the focus is on the relationships and the pleasure and the moment, not like, okay, here is the plan and the schedule. And we have, you know, I know it used to drive you a little bit nuts, like on EFC when there was like, you know, very tight schedules. And, you know, we have 5 minutes is late on EFC and this kind of thing, you know. So it's like, maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, well, it will be great to have a balance between one thing and another. I think that's really what that's why you guys come into Spain and we hiring some other people for. I don't know. I think that there is a balance from one thing and to the other. I think that being like we are in England, it doesn't work 100%.
I agree. Yeah.
And being like you guys, you are when you come here, it doesn't work either. So I think that what I like it is the way that we can be with each other, and I don't know. Yes, we like to have people around. That's it. For some other. And sometimes, you know, it could be like, as you say, go with the flow. What it means to go with the flow. If you want to be global, you have to plan. So that's why it has taken a while for some business, Spanish business, to go internationally. But I think that everybody's capable today to go from one another and so on. And yeah.
And somatically, there's two useful embodiments, right? Back to choice. You know, can you be like easygoing and horizontal and kind of relaxed? I saw that in your body a few times, you know, on the camera. And, you know, and can we be linear and goal orientated and driven? And, you know, these are both useful embodiments. And I think it's one nice thing about spending time in different countries is like being able to sort of pick up different embodiments.
Yeah. You always, I don't know, you always learning from each other and seeing that that's what I really liked it about when I first went to Rolfing, that everybody was from different countries. So I learned so much about myself and how much culture has shaped my way of thinking or my way of being, and how different we are from each other, and then at the end, physiologically, we are the same.
Well, I think, I talk about culture a lot on this show because it's a really important layer of embodiment. We have guests from everywhere, you know, quite consciously. But also, as you say, like the beauty of embodiment is it connects us to the non-cultural layer. Like you and I have the same fight-flight response, right? That is just, you make a loud noise or a tiger jumps out, me and you are going to have very similar physiology happening then.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the more I work with people, I really respecting at how they are at the level of at the moment, and how really what I as you said in the courses many times, like go into the little detail of the exercise and do the repetition, and like you know, when we were doing the morning exercise or so on, and if you go into there, you discover a whole, you know, about yourself.
Just
like,
in terms of how someone does something, do you mean? Like the ways they make the tea, or the little ways they do the yoga stretch or whatever. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, it's nice to reconnect you. It's really nice. Like one thing about EFC, and this isn't like an advert for EFC, it's just that's our shared context, right? And it does make people kind of close and gives us a shared language to talk about different ideas that we have. You know, that's one thing I like about that course. Anyone that comes on it joins into a community, you know, and there'll be other community members there in Spain for the Paul Linden course, and some of us are climbing a mountain in Wales this weekend, whereas about 8 of us climbing a mountain together. So we stay connected, we share ideas, we have that commonality, because I feel like in the embodiment world there's a lot of diversity now. Like even just say water therapies, there's Watsu and there's water this, and there's water that, and that's just one little areas. There's there's Rolfing, structured integration, there's Hello Work, there's all these different. I just reread one of the EFC textbooks, which is 50 different embodiment techniques in one book, and it's like forgetting the author now. It's the big brown one. It's called Body Ways anyway, and it basically surveys like 50 different. And I thought there's so much plurality out there, so many differences, so many systems. To me, the question now is like, how do we integrate them? How do we converse between them? How do we see how they fit together or not? That seems like the challenge of now as opposed to the challenge of the 1960s.
Well, I think that at the end you have to, how do you express yourself better either as a therapist, as a coach, as a teacher, educator, facilitator, and that's goes with your own personality. Like I remember when I first started they say go into chiropractor. That was not me at all.
Yeah.
So that's the same. I think many of the things that they're showing, they have, if you look at the exercise or if you look at the outcome of the exercise or the goal, they're looking for the same. So how do you do it, or how do you bring to that? I think that Americans tend to do things at the very pedagogical, you will say, or
I can't say that word either, and I'm English, so don't worry. I know what you mean. Teaching methodology,
step by step, very very simple at the beginning, and get it more complex on. So I think that I will really go into bring embodiment into the schools and to the offices, to everywhere. It should be. That's something that I would really like to see.
I feel like embodiment has gone very deep in the US. Like there's really great places like our friend Maud, Maud? She just came back from Esalen, and she was at my embodied yoga the other day, and we was talking about how, how great the embodiment workout is in California and different places. But has it gone like abroad across like schools and workplaces? You know what I mean? Like I feel like there are some great centers of it, and it's good to get together and geek out and have our communities and our parties and our EFC reunions. It's really good. And it feels like, okay, how is this stuff really integrated into the life of like a normal British office worker or kid in Barcelona or whatever?
This is how I picture. I really picture teaching to teachers, or bringing more teachers into and then bring it really into business. I was the other day, actually it's a British company. I was in British Petroleum, that they have one office, big office here in where I live, and the people from human resources and so on, they say how we can bring little pieces daily. Like every 2 hours, people, they are really get disconnected through the day, and then they go for 1 hour of. We facilitate that they go to classes, or they go to have outdoor things, but they're disconnected through the day. So I think that that's something really interesting to bring into many companies, and I think that that's really fascinating, because we could see really changes before and after if we will go more for that.
Yeah, because it may be doing, yoga once or twice a week or dance once or twice a week, but actually integrating things throughout the day in small ways. I try, and my average day, I do a little bit of practice in the morning. At some point mid-morning, I make a cup of coffee and I might do a couple of little yoga stretches. At lunch, I might go to a short yoga class or have a little sit. And then I'd have an afternoon, and sometimes even the afternoon I get disembodied, I get caught in it, and by the evening I'm like, where the hell's my body gone? And I'm an embodiment professional, so I'm usually going to a yoga class again in the evening, and it's like, wow, even as a professional this is tricky for me, to kind of keep, and I find that little and often, like I drink a lot of fluids, like a lot of water and decaf coffee, and like it means I have to stand up from my computer a lot because my bladder reminds me, you know. And then I stand up, I go to the toilet, I do a little stretch, I do some pull-ups on my chin-up bar in my office, do a little bit of movement, a little bit of exercise, a little bit of embodiment. And then I come back to my computer with another glass of water. So I'm doing it, you know, like that's like a little strategy I have. And without the water, I think I'd forget, you know, that actually gets me up.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is something that people, they're appreciating more and more. Like give us little tips that people could do when they're sitting for so long, when they are going for the breaks, or when I even teach them people, okay, you don't have time, do you have 1 minute at the bathroom? Do this stretch. Do it 4 times a day. And at the end, they ended up doing like 15 minutes exercise that they are reconnecting with themselves.
Yeah.
Besides, of course, the exercise or the yoga or meditation or whatever other practices they're doing.
You know, in EFC, we used to say, right, you've got to do 3 hours practice a week. Now we say 3 hours practice a week plus 1 minute, 5 times a day.
Oh, that's great.
It's like a new thing we've added to the course. So we said like morning practice, evening reflection, like journaling. So it's like a sandwich, morning meditation, evening journaling, and then throughout the day, 1 minute. So it's not like a big extra time commitment for them, but we just wanted to kind of like integrate it more throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. That's great that you bring that, because I think that's really part of the future. I mean, people are working, they think that they're working less hours, but today with the new technologies, we're working more and more.
Yeah, working from the moment you wake up. If you know, I just bought an electronic alarm clock because I'm tired of waking up with my mobile phone as my alarm clock, and then before I know it, I've got a WhatsApp message from Catherine, you know, asking me to look at something because she's working early that day, and I'm working and I haven't even had breakfast, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, so now I got this like shitty old-fashioned alarm clock, and my mobile phone's going to be hidden in my office.
Mm-hmm.
So just it's a simple little hack, but to me, I think that might be helpful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you decide what to do? Because I'm looking at your website before I called you today, and you know, you do loads of cool stuff, you know, you do the physio, you do fitness, you do Rolfing, you do dance stuff, you know, somatic coaching. Like another challenge, I think, for people like us, and I know a lot of the listeners are also, you know, very well qualified, multiple disciplines. How do you decide what to spend your time on?
Okay, so right now on my clinic, I will say 60%, like a one-to-one. Mm-hmm. Then I do groups. I think that this has been really something very positive. Like I try to bring, I mean, everybody who I Rolf, I try to bring them afterwards to a group. And many of them, they say, well, once a week, maybe it's too much. So now I'm doing groups that people come 3 hours or 4 hours once a month.
Yeah.
But they have to have the commitment to do it the whole year. So it's not just, so this is really working well. Like, so, and I have so I do that now, right now I have like almost like 6 groups that they are 8 people, between 8 and 10 people. And I really like that part. So we're doing different body parts or themes related to the body. And it's about teaching them things and experience their body in different body areas. And then they can practice through the month. And then they come back and then we do another thing. So that's really an enjoying of that. And then I'm trying to have time to write, but that's really something that requires more quiet. And so I carry my small notebook everywhere. So I have a lot of notes there. And then I work with residential programs with mostly business.
How do you decide? Because this is, I mean, I get that you do loads of interesting things, and I'm similar, I guess many listeners are. Like, how do you decide what to spend your time on? This is a constant challenge for me. Like, given there's all these, I mean, my own practice is one challenge. Like, what do I practice? You know, which classes do I go to, given that I like dance, Aikido, yoga, you know?
Yeah.
And the second question is like, okay, what about my professional work? I mean, some of that's financially driven. Some of it for me is just like what I'm interested in right now. Like, I just follow my kind of interests, and you know, you'll see this, right? You've been following me for a few years. I'll spend a year looking at attraction, and I'll spend the next year looking at purpose, or you know, I'm constantly following interest, and some of it's intuitive and some of it's like business orientated. You know, I've gone, right, I need to keep the main income coming in. Like, how do you decide like how to apply yourself?
Yeah, well, it has taken me a few years. It's not something that it came from one day to another. I have not been able to balance very well sometimes. So I was either working a lot or maybe then I will teach and I was not ready for it and I was frustrated, I was nervous. So now I like to plan the year. I like to see, so if I'm doing these trips, or I will only take this. I'm not taking something else. So that's a good balance with my family. So I will take, like, let's say 3 or 4 trips out of town in international. So I'm taking that.
Yeah, I'm cutting right down on that. I've had enough of being away from my wife and leaving my pleasant environment that nourishes me. We've got every fucking week to go on a plane. It's too much.
Yeah. And then, I think that I have a quite balanced practice. So that's a good thing. So it's the I don't have to be paying so much anymore. Like in the past, you put in all the time money into your business and so on. So now I think that I have the balance about like teaching, going abroad, having the clients, but it has taken me a while. I mean, it's one of the things that I have really always have really present. When I'm not enjoying, when I feel really like it's a pressure, like it's a burden, I'm not. I have to cut that energy. I have to do less with that. So even if I enjoy doing a lot of sessions one by one, I realize that if I do more than 4 a day, because I usually do it for 90 minutes. If I do more than 4, I really I don't feel good about myself. I always feel that I want to go for a walk or not go with the pressure that I used to go to get my
it's so simple.
Yeah.
If I jump in, it's so simple, and South European in many ways. Like if I'm not enjoying this, I'm doing it too much. Because it's so easy to say, well, I can do it and I can push myself and I've got all these somatic tricks and I know how to change my mood and elevate my energy levels. I can do all that shit.
Yeah.
You know? But if I'm not enjoying it, should I be doing it then? Is that good?
Yeah.
Like what's an amount I can do and still find some pleasure in it?
Yeah, I think that it's varies from person to person. I think that I like we have some other signs like putting weight or losing weight or not having a sleep or some other things that they're telling you that something you need to balance in your life.
Well, if we're not listening to our bodies, we're not that very good embodiment teachers here. Even on this podcast, I find if I do more than 2 or 3 interviews a week, I'm like, I'm not enjoying it so much, you know? Yeah. And now I haven't done one for a couple of weeks. I was having lunch. I was really looking forward to talking with you. You know, it's partly because it's you, but it was also that I was like, yeah, I want to do an interview. I haven't done an interview in a couple of weeks, you know? Yeah.
So for me, it's the same. Like people will say, wow, you have a great practice and you don't want to see more clients? No. If I see more clients, I don't give 100% to my clients. Yeah. And if I teach every weekend, I'm not 100%, and I feel that my family. I mean, I'm not good with them. And my parents are getting old, and they require more time and so on. And I want to have that time for. And it's. I think that now that I have realized that I cannot be the Rolfer or the physio or the coach for everybody in town or in the world.
Can't save everyone.
Yeah. You can relax much more, and just go more with the flow. Go more, not from the Spanish point of view. Go with the flow, but really like enjoying it. This is what I can bring, and this is how I do it. And
I think it's the flow and the deep flow, because when most people say go with the flow, they mean go with habitual patterns, go with what's easy, have no sense of responsibility or commitment. But actually, the deep flow is a different thing. You know, go with the deep flow is like, okay, like we're really listening into yourself and what's enjoyable. And it seems like balance has become the theme of this podcast. You know, we're talking about integrating embodiment into the community, into your own life, finding balance within that. You know, it feels like many embodiment teachers are on this quest for balance on different levels. And, you know, as I get a bit older, that becomes more important to me.
I think that balance is the key point for our lives also. If you have balance in your life, if you get out of balance, that's fine, because you know how to come back. But you have to be balanced, trying to be balanced, because that's what will make you to have the awareness when you are out of there. So it's if you're shouting to your children every day, or if you're drinking every day, or whatever, if you don't have the balance, you will not know that this is happening.
That's the scary thing, right? When you're off balance, you don't always know it. And sometimes in small ways, like this morning, I had a very intense start to the day. We're launching EFC this evening. So it's like, that's really on my mind right now. And there's a lot happening, a lot of emails, some difficult client calls. And just by lunchtime, I found myself a little bit out of balance, and I went and had lunch with a meditation friend, had really good food, good company, good conversation. And then an hour later, I was like, okay, now I can teach this evening. I can have a good interview with you. I kind of realized that I was a little bit off. And to me, it's like readjusting that in the day, not waiting until I have a heart attack. Do you know what I mean? Like daily, like tuning in and readjustment.
Yeah, that's really the balance of and the art of daily life. This is what not happening to most of people. They need to go to a retreat, or they need to really go totally off.
Yeah.
So
that's a lovely way of putting it. I just want to underline that, the art of daily life, not the retreat or the special intensive state, but the art of daily life.
That's for me, that's the goal for because I don't really want to live in a monastery. I like where I live, and I want to really enjoy my life I like to be in nature, but I really like to go also, to go to a coffee place or to a bar with my friends. So I think that the daily life is what's missing. We have, today the people, I remember I was giving a conference for coaches here in Spain, and they hired me because they didn't know about what it was somatic coaching, or they were interested because of how come you are a coach. And I say, well, I'm not really a coach from your kind of ontological coach, but I think that through the body we can coach, and we can bring a lot to the people. And I say, here everybody everybody has a university degree, everybody has one master, most of you have 2 masters. Okay, you're paying me to tell you how to sit down. So
funny, really.
So that's how we ended up, with eating. It's getting crazy. Nobody knows what to eat. My mom once comes in a while and tell me, when I was young, people were telling that the olive oil was not good. Now everybody loves olive oil. And so we're going from one thing to another. And that's really confusing people about, and that's one of
from the head as well, right? It's like, I shouldn't eat this, I should eat this. It's not actually like, okay, do I feel good when I eat olive oil? Like, I remember one time my sister was in Spain as a young child with my parents on holiday, and she was eating goat's cheese. Mm-hmm. And she stopped having eczema for the first time in her life, because it turns out the dairy was causing her a problem. Now, my parents forgot about this. And then when she was 30 years old, she went on this diet and stopped having dairy, and her skin cleared up for the second time in her life. And they said, oh, yeah, there was this one time in Spain when your skin cleared up. And my sister said, so in Spain, what were you eating and drinking? They're like, well, it's goat's milk. And they didn't notice that because they weren't tuned in to her body response. It's cognitive, milk was supposed to be good for you. So they gave her milk, and then she tuned into it and was like, oh shit, this has had this effect.
That's the same with the food. I think that we try to eat, Thai food in England, in Spain, and then Japanese food in Spain, and then, and then they eat the Spanish food in Japan, and we know that the way we eat is related to the climate and the rhythms that you have, and how you grow the food in different environments. So I think that that's the globalization had good things, but it's making us not to have a real connection with what's really going on. it's about common sense in many things, that not everybody has to eat the same things. Not everybody has to, not because you eat now quinoa, you are going to be more healthier. You can,
Also more spiritual, Bibiana, not just more healthy, more spiritual for sure.
Yeah.
But, what's funny is I've experimented with all kinds of diets, and the one my body responds best to is like meat and vegetables, if I'm honest. And it's like pretty much the diet I grew up with, minus some sugary shit, minus some too much carbs, a few other things. But basically, it's what my mum was feeding me, North European diet. And, there's some evolution probably behind that. Like Japanese people don't do well with cow's milk because they didn't have it for thousands of years in Japan. And it's, I wonder if some coming back to common sense here. Food's interesting, wasn't it, in Spain as well? Because for you guys, tell me if I'm wrong, food has this like deeply social and pleasurable and almost spiritual significance. Like, I don't think North Europeans get what food means to the average Spanish or Italian.
Well, like in Spain, we cook, and most of our dishes is to share.
Yeah, the communal thing again. Yeah.
It is to share. So that's something that you cook in and you are sharing. So that's something very, very, I think that I really like when I'm to share. I mean, it's not something that is for yourself, for eating yourself. It's, like maybe in the northern countries, you have your food, you have your plate.
It's the same. Yeah, it's just in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, there's always a big pile of food in the middle and everybody shares. And one time in Ethiopia, I was eating on my own and my friends thought it was funny. Like my Ethiopian friends thought it was comical that I would eat a meal without sharing. And even on a bus there, if you have like a Snickers bar, you break it in two and give it to the people next to you. Like just sharing food is considered like life,
Yeah, like people here will we have dishes that you put in the middle of the table, and you just pick with your fork and put it in your mouth. So for some cultures, that's a shock, like
some Americans wouldn't like that. Yeah,
you're getting your bacteria and your virus, and everybody is ill because of, and it's not true. It's
the opposite. Actually, the opposite. Yeah, it's like we need to eat a bit of the dirt from time to time, especially growing up, and kind of like I never got sick once kissing a girl. Like it's the sharing side is good too. But again, as I said, it could seem unhygienic from that point of view of like other people are dirty. You have to keep away from it. There's something in this in like sort of sexual hygiene as well. And obviously,
I understand.
And there's also this fear in safe sex, like other people are dirty. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, condoms, I fully support that. But the idea of like, when you kiss someone, people say, oh, you'll catch cooties, you'll get an illness. Like other people are a dirty risk. Their bodies are unclean.
My gynecologist, she works with a gypsy women, and she tells us that they are the ones that they have less vagina infections, and they usually don't clean it themselves. So I mean, it's not a general thing, but they have less hygienic things. So it's it's a.
Here's the story I heard. Tell me if this is true. There's a Spanish gypsy dance where the woman would put handkerchiefs into their underwear and to sort of soak up the vaginal fluid, and then they would dance and they would wave these scarves and handkerchiefs around, kind of floating the kind of pheromones across the men to drive them crazy. Now, that seemed like really gross from a North European point of view.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
There's maybe a rumor. My friend, she was studying flamenco and some gypsy traditions, and she was saying this was...
I'll search about it. I'll search, yeah. Well, that's... The thing is that maybe we share what we do more open, and some others, they just do it and go private and pay for it. I don't know. I don't know.
This is wonderful. And one more theme, like we've gone quite alternative in some of this and talking about mainstream and alternative. Like, how was it for you kind of starting to work in business? Like you've done some more kind of like alternative, like hippie, inverted commas stuff. And I remember you came to EFC and we were like helping you out with that. That was part of the training. And you're working in companies. Like, how have you found that journey from the kind of more alternative on the beach kind of thing to the some of those more mainstreams?
I never felt myself not too much into the, let's say, business style or hippie style.
Okay.
I felt actually for when I was younger, I wanted to be more alternative and I liked the people, but I didn't feel that was my energy to be with 100%. So it has been difficult for me to be in one place or another. So now I feel more confident in what I'm doing, and I think that I don't need to be one way or another. I don't think that it's good either. Yeah. I never have even call myself that I'm doing alternative therapy. I never like it. I think that it's not an appropriate word. I'm not alternative to anything.
Well, again, there's something very, and I mean this as a compliment, ordinary in what you do. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're talking about food, we're talking about life. We could have talked about kids as well, I'm sure. No, we're talking about the householder path and ordinary life, and in schools and in businesses. And that alternative world is about being extraordinary. Do you know what I mean? There's something that tries to stand outside the ordinary, which I have some suspicions about. You know, it's an extraction from life in some ways.
What I've seen or have experienced that being fanatic of something in general, whatever it is, it could be food, it could be, I don't know, your yoga practice or going to your physio every week. Whenever you become fanatic, it's something wrong on you. That's something that I have. Yeah. So sometimes something that is missing on us, it's becoming fanatic of something. So, and it's something that I have seen it on some people in the alternative world.
And it's funny you say that in Spain as well, because I mean, Spain had fascism, and you still have like hardcore, like ultra left kind of people. Like, you've always had that extremes in your politics, and it seems like it's spreading to the world now. You know, the birth of the right and the birth of the far left gaining. You know, that there's something about fanaticism wherever it is, whether it's politics or a diet or a yoga thing, which just leads to a lack of balance, right?
I think that not to be able to truly be open and talk about these things when it was the right time to talk, it has generated this coming back, I will say.
Swing back.
Yeah.
Yeah, to another, from one fanaticism to another without talking about it while it's in a healthy place.
I think that I see people that they are very constricted about their ideas. Like, you want to keep that idea in yourself. I see it very constricted. And I see that like the very left and the very right, they have the same behaviors.
Yeah, very similar in some ways, huh?
In the body, I'm talking about the body.
Yeah, that are contracted.
The behavior, but they have very similar body types, I would say.
Yeah, there's something sort of in that contraction, that fight flight, that pushing onto others of the ideology, whether it's right or left or yoga or a new diet should be on. You know, you should all have green smoothies every day or whatever it is. That's interesting. Oh, I love talking with you. We're out of time, unfortunately. We could go for a lot longer, I'm sure. And I'm going to be seeing you in Spain. So I'm thinking, why don't we plug Paul Linden's course? And this is one I'm not hosting. I'm just coming to myself. And it's Paul, who's been on the podcast, one of my main mentors. In my researched view, one of the best embodiment teachers in the world, really researched view. And he's going to be with you guys in June, right? So it's... do you have the dates there handy? Is it the 19th to the 23rd? We start on the 18th and we go till the 23rd. So what's on the 18th? It starts on the 18th, does it? We start on the 18th, June 18th. Okay, I have the wrong date in my diary, so I'm glad I... you come the 17th. Glad I checked that out. I'll be coming straight from EFC Kent, getting on a plane to Spain with my wife, and she'll be lying on the beach having a nice holiday while no doubt I'll be assisting Paul. And, I'm sure she deserves it, yeah. Where can people find out about that course particularly? Is there a place online? It's on my website.
We have it, and also the Paul's student, also Niels Jansen, he also has his website that
Let's point people to your website, because I want to do that anyway. So it's just to spell it. It's BIBIANABADENES.com, right? There's English on there as well. So what I'll do is I'll link the English version when we put the podcast out, which will be fairly soon, and people can go on there and they can find out about all the stuff you do. Any other resources of yours online that you want to point people to?
I don't know, just go and take a look. And it's not finished yet, the website. I think that it needs a little refresh on some things that I want to point out more, and take some other things. But it's just, I like how it is at the moment, because this is what I'm doing. I have this curiosity of doing all these things, and I really still enjoying all these things. Who knows what I will do? Maybe ended up doing a movie or something like that. That's probably.
Well, I think the website looks great. There's loads of good resources on there, so I'll point people to that. And Bibiana, it's been such a pleasure. Do you have a final message about the body for anyone listening?
Well, be friendly to your body. Be kind. Enjoy. Don't think that everything is in your head. Be humble. Every little moment through the day is a moment of learning for the body. So you don't have to wait for your magic hour. The magic hours are very important. They of course, they transform us, and it's a lot of inspiration. But what is important is your daily path. How do you go with that? And don't wait till you are too old to start thinking about it or spending your money, because then it will be more difficult.
So come hang out with us on the beach in Spain, and some of the listeners that have been listening from afar, maybe it's a good chance for a very pleasant experience at one Paul Linden's last European gig. And I'm really looking forward to it, actually. Really looking forward to hanging out with you. I know Pierre's there, and some of us who we're going to have on the show too, and a few other people who are sort of part of the community. So I will see you in June.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you for bringing all these wonderful teachers. That because I think that the connection doesn't finish at the course. There's always these relationships and networking that we are creating, and as you said, there's very different people that we at the moment there. But I think that in a few years it will be a connection from like a background, people have a kind of a degree, like you working from like a somatic embodiment place, and it's not about really doing just the fitness or the repetitions and so on. So I think that it's in a few years we will not have to explain what we're doing.
That would be great, wouldn't it? That would save a lot of time. And I love how everyone is building this community with the podcast, with the YouTube, with the live events, with the FC, with your festival in Spain. It's really great to see everyone building the community together. So thank you for relaxing me, livening me up, giving me a break from my admin for the day. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to get more. If you'd like to help us build the Embodied Tribe, leave a review on iTunes or share this on your social media. If you're interested in training globally, sign up to receive the newsletter at embodiedfacilitator.com. Until next time, welcome home to the body.